We're going to talk about the value of information in this section, but particularly the thing we call the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect looks really cute when you make a movie about it, and you have Indiana Jones with this cute little hat and everything else, and he's got this bullwhip, he's cracking it away and everything else. And it's what the bullwhip is, though. At the handle, it only moves a little bit, but as you go further out to the end of the bullwhip, you have a giant wave of happening with the cord itself, the bullwhip, actually having a huge amount of fluctuation. A little bit, a lot at the end. That's the effect that you have on the supply chain on a regular basis. And it really ends up at the retail place. But you know what? At the end, you can't sell goods with an empty shelf. If it's not there, you got a problem and you're losing money. And not just losing money, your customer comes in with an expectation to buy that and they want it now when the shelf is empty. If they don't like it, they're going to go home. They're going to pick up their phone. They're going to click on Amazon and have it delivered that night. And you're out of business, maybe not just for that moment, but maybe forever. Maybe just keep on getting it from Amazon or whatever other source it may be. You may lose the customer. The reality of it comes down to we are Americans, we are pig-headed, we are stubborn, we want it now. That being said, if you're in the supply chain, you need to listen to maybe yourself in the aspect of how would you feel as the ultimate consumer. We're going to use information, and information is really a huge wealth that we can actually tap into. I was talking to a gentleman who's actually a supervisor inside of a large freight company, and now they're using information in a whole different way within just the last year. Now, keep in mind, in just the last year, and this is really before true artificial intelligence is kicking in, which is starting to do right now. What they do, a truck is coming in. Before that truck comes in, okay, they have a fleet of high-lows or forklifts, whatever term you want to use them. All of a sudden, they get their screens populated by the truck comes in, 28,000 pounds. Okay, and we got the pallets over here. You get pallet 1, you get pallet 2, you get pallet 3. Pallet 1, take it over to San Diego. Pallet 2, San Francisco. Pallet 3, Boston. It's almost that thing, and they tell the high-load driver where to go, what slot to put in that pellet, and how to get the next one. As soon as it's there, click, he touches the button, and boom, on his little pad. This is nothing more than a glorified iPad with some direction as the coordination by a central office. They're using some AI, but by the time it's all done, you better believe they'll be getting rid of the high-load driver, doing it all automated with robots unloading the truck. And eventually a robot's going to be driving the truck too by the time you're done. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we all have some kind of work to do and don't just sit home and watch the robots do the work and we'll just sit there and scratch our heads trying to figure out what happened to us. So we want to always try to reduce the variability on the supply chain because of the fact that we're going to be looking at that information and what's happening. And maybe the more information we have, we can reduce the overall impact of the bullwhip effect. A lot of it is information. We can coordinate manufacturing distribution, not just down the line, but keep in mind what it is. Retail, distributor, manufacturer, and then really your raw materials. By the time you're done with the raw materials, you get a giant truckload to drop off your raw materials. You're looking often that a minimum of a month happens between the raw materials and its conversion into something that's manufactured and ready to go to the end user. It is often 7-8 weeks before that happens. So you have the supply chain that is that long and sometimes even longer. What can you do to reduce that overall, to try to reduce the variability, which is what the purpose of the information is, so everything is totally coordinated and everybody's moving in the same sync together. So you want to make sure the retailers serve their customers by offering tools to get the desired items. You want to make certain they react to supply problems rapidly, and you want to enable lead times to make certain that you load the truck. Sometimes it almost seems you should put an order every single day, when in fact that does happen an awful lot of times in different industries. The bullwhip effect talks about the amplification of the variability. So you might have this kind of variability, but then as it gets bigger, as people panic because of the fact, I'm worried about having my shelves full, oh my gosh, and it gets more, as you go down the supply line, you'll have the bullwhip happening and it gets bigger and bigger. the retailer incorrectly demands forecast. Oh no, my shelves are going to be empty by the end of the day. Help, help. They put an order in. They put a second order in, and the third order in. And the first one comes in, and by the time it's all done, they're already settled. So the Bullwhip Effect now has excess inventory for them. They lose revenue. They have too much capital invested in inventory. They cut back. So all of a sudden, the regular order system that they have with an order going out every single week, all of a sudden now they don't put an order up for 3 weeks. The supplier is sitting there saying, what are you doing? You promised you'd have this over here. I got all this stock. Says, well, we don't need it right now, and we just don't order it. That's your problem. So you're going to look at the whole aspect of it. The book provides you a really good example of Pampers, and it gives you a chart, and you can see in the chart the massive variability between the Pampers and the actual use at the end customer. You have this little variability at the retail, but that creates something higher and higher and bigger in the process right along the supply chain, this whole aspect of variability. So the variability in orders placed by the retailer is higher than what's actually there for customer demand. Everything was fine. We have the regular system going on, and all of a sudden people are panicking and overthinking the process because they have maybe too much information in the process. So by the time it's all done, you get stuff going back to the factory, and from the factory, you actually had your raw material supplier. Here's an example, really, by the time you see the panic of the Bullwhip Effect, customer demand, here's the customer, here's the retailer, here's the wholesaler, the manufacturer, and you'll see more variability as you go down the supply chain aspect of it, further away from the customer, and an overreaction in the process just to make certain that customer, the one that's finally purchasing it. So here's a couple things. Number one, make certain your demand forecasting, the base stock level is set equal the average demand. Now you're going to look at the standard deviation and keep in mind what the standard deviation is. It's nothing, yes, it is a mathematical term, except it really is, here's your average. It's just this, and the standard deviation is how much does it deviate this way and how much this way. You want to have that minimal amount, and you want to make certain you're addressing the standard deviation because that really is a reflection of your overall stock. And then as more data is observed, you can actually add that to your formula and see what's out there, modify your mean and your standard deviation to make certain that you have the right numbers and you can sit down and calm down your supply chain. The lead time is a big thing. You want to make certain you have enough lead time because as you go look in the actual process, eventually you have to make certain the raw materials are in the chain and ready to go for manufacturing and then distribution, and then eventually distribution to the retailer on top of this. So you have all these different things to do, and you want to make sure your lead time is good. So the longer the lead time, the smaller the change on the demand variability. That's always a good thing. So the more lead time you have and the more accurate lead time, the better it's going to be. Batch ordering. I have to tell you, an example, Myers, they had a problem. They used batch ordering once a week for, in essence, an alcohol drink supplement. And I mentioned this previously back in the previous chapter. I want to mention it again here. The guy had the salesperson had people coming into the stores 6 times every single week. They took one day off a week. Every time they go by, they would see a shelf that was empty. Well, they were using a batch order once a week to put the stock on the shelf. They put the stock on the shelf every single Monday morning. They would put the order in. It would arrive Tuesday. They would stock the shelf. They would put on there. And so by Thursday and Friday, the shelves became empty just in time. They have beautiful empty shelves for the weekend when people want the alcohol supplement themselves right there. Well, I'll tell you what. So they went and they had a whole process where they ordered it on a daily basis, and all of a sudden the shelf was full and everybody made money in the process. But it wasn't just the store itself making money, it was the distributor and the store working hand in hand. Batch ordering presents problems if you're going to do one large batch. It's much more efficient. It's actually economical because you can get a discount with that, except for the fact that does it fulfill and does it stop the Bullwhip Effect? And that can sit down and make all the difference in the world. You also have price fluctuations. No matter what happens, everybody has a sale. Retailers have a sale, but of course the suppliers have a sale too. I have a warehouse full of this product over here, and if you buy today, you'll get 20% off because I want to reduce my inventory because I have to do a physical inventory count coming up. Okay, I don't know about you. It doesn't matter where I am in the supply chain. If I hear sale, 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 save money, save money, save money, I am interested. So if I'm going to be the distributor and the manufacturer's got a sale, I'm going to take up that sale. I'm going to buy more inventory, take inventory up his hand, and they probably won't place their order for the next month. All of a sudden, now we have another variation in the supply chain, and it's not smooth. You also will have sometimes the people worry about, I, I think it's coming up. I'm worried about it. We had that funny surge in November. So I'm going to buy extra over here. I'm going to kick in the next week's order another 20% because I don't want to be out right at the holiday season when I need it the most. So they inflate the order. You have different aspects of it. Here's a formula for your base stock level. Now, by the way, this is not going to show up in a test, but I want you to have some of the components to it. You want to look at some of the different formulas because this will be on your computer when you're actually worrying about it and trying to sit down there and reduce this bullwhip effect. If the retailer estimates the average demand, the mean demand based on the last 5 periods, then the variance is placed in the retailer at least 40% larger than the variance on the customer demand seen by the retailer. You have to pay attention to what is the mean, and if the mean is changing, then you need to sit down and make an adjustment. But if you make too big of a radical adjustment, it's going to sit down there and cause that bullwhip to even sit down there and be worse down line than it is currently. Having more observations, you can have a moving average forecast and recalculation. That's going to really be helpful in the aspect of as artificial intelligence kicks more and more into your system, except for the fact that if you have more periodic and regular orders, it'll calm everything down and you'll be ensured having a good, safe stock in the process. One of the more frequent suggestions to reduce the bullwhip is a centralized demand information within the supply chain. But that, now you're going to get involved into centralizing versus decentralizing, who's closer to the final customer. You need to have that internal dialogue. Impact of the bullwhip, you got to look at really the supply chain with the centralized demand information that'll help. Decentralized, you have to look at that as well, and the management insights in the whole process. The bullwhip effect, it's all about supply chain variability. The more you can reduce that variability and calm the waters down, you can reduce that bullwhip effect and make everybody along the supply chain regular in the aspect of knowing what's coming down without this giant variability and snapping that whip and knocking everybody out. Improve your demand forecasting, your lead times, price fluctuations, and try to avoid inflated orders. Or if you have an inflated order, give a justification and what the manufacturer and supplier and distributor and so on can expect in the weeks to come, and not sit there and crack the whip in their world. Take care.